Tennessee Commissioner for Transportation to construct and maintain a multi-use pedestrian greenway in Davidson County, Tennessee, 1757. Requests the Metro Department of Water, Metro Planning Department, and Metro Department of Codes Administration to work together to review the efficacy of current regulations and code provisions affecting infill development and development new procedures as necessary to regulate infill and better manage stormwater runoff. This is a non-binding resolution. Any of those matters need to be pulled from consent? All right. Would somebody like to move the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Thank you, Councilman Druffel.
Okay.
Bills on second reading. We can put BL 2022-1406, 1407, and 1408 on consent, unless anybody has a desire to pull those off. All right, I'll read the captions. BL 2022-1406 authorizes Metro to abandon existing stormwater drainage easement rights for property located at 1036 East Trinity Lane. BL 2022-1407 authorizes Metro to relocate a public fire hydrant assembly for property located at 1160 Tulip Grove Road. And BL 2022-1408 authorizes Metro to abandon existing water mains and easements, to relocate a fire hydrant assembly, and to access new water main, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for 3 properties located at 2500, 2504, and 2508 Bransford Avenue. Would anybody like?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that consent agenda passes, and now we'll move to BL 2022-1384, Rosenberg, Evans, and Bradford sponsors, amends Code Section 12.12.190 of the Metro Code relative to traffic calming projects. We have a proposed substitute by Councilmember Rosenberg and a proposed amendment by Councilmember Sledge. I don't see either of them here. We do have one of the listed.
Here comes somebody.
Oh, here we go. Would anybody like to move the bill?
So moved. Second.
All right, Councilman Rosenberg, I see you're here. We just moved your bill, and I see there's a proposed substitute. So we're on the bill. If you would like to give you the floor and let you explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Go Dogs.
Sure.
The substitute here came in consultation with the administration, seeks to do 3 things. 1 is codify the traffic calming program. 2 is to ensure an equitable distribution of projects. And the 3rd is to create a mechanism for privately funded projects that doesn't put any kind of burden on NDOT or take away any resources. However, it's come to my attention there are some typos in the substitute. So I'd like to put the substitute on so it's on the record and then defer it for a meeting so that we can get those things.
Do we have a motion on the substitute?
So moved.
Move substitute.
Second. All right, the substitute is moved. Any discussion on the substitute?
Can you talk a little bit about the differences in the substitute and what was there before?
The original bill was really just a placeholder to get something filed. It did not go into much detail about how privately, what the qualifications would be for a privately funded project. You know, those will still need to meet the qualifications, be good projects for the city, and it adds in more detail to make sure that it's not just the actual construction that's funded privately, but all the steps along the way will need to be handled so as not to put a burden on NDOT.
Maintenance as well?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest difference, would you say?
That's right.
Yeah.
Councilmember Nash.
I got the impression on the first bill, and I may have been wrong, that the privately funded things would be on private streets, HOA kinds of locations. This will be anywhere in town that...
Just not arterial and collector streets.
Gotcha. Yeah. Typical streets for...
Yes.
Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to commend Councilmember Rosenberg for putting this together. It's come to my attention in some issues and some developments that are coming in my district where developers are ready, willing, and able to fund and build traffic calming into their developments, and NDOT keeps saying, no thank you, we want to spend our own money, our own resources to do this. So I appreciate Councilmember Rosenberg for doing this. That's why I signed on to it, and I think it's a good bill.
Any other discussion? We are on, for those just arriving, we're on BL 2022-1384 by Councilman Rosenberg, and the substitute is on the floor. Go ahead.
I've had a few problems with a couple of neighborhoods putting up like signs and things that weren't approved by NDOT. And so I guess my question is, NDOT's going to make sure that anything they put up in the neighborhoods are approved so that we don't have problems with traffic and things like that that shouldn't be.
Right, I mean, this wouldn't address guerrilla calming necessarily, but that would not be a part of it. It would be metro standards and all that kind of thing.
I had a neighborhood that was just opened up in the back, and to keep this from happening, they put up 3 dead-end signs at the beginning of the neighborhood when it is not a dead end. So I'm just making sure that this kind of stuff, you know, that we're having people actually looking at the roads to make sure things are like they should be.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thanks. And I observed that there is not an NDOT representative present, so we'll see where we get to with this. But, all right, so Councilmember Rosenberg, I understand the overall concern here, and I guess the one thing I want to ask is, I know that there has been this open enrollment model, right, and that it is supposedly, you know, weighted based on severity of need, like there's a scoring mechanism. And I guess I just want to make sure, right, so I understand that one of the biggest concerns expressed here is that geographic availability of the program as a whole should be one of those weights. But I don't want to wind up having this have the impact of pulling down very unsafe situations, even though there are multiple neighbors. You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And so has NDOT commented on that? Like, is it going to result in more net funding for these programs, or how are we going to balance the adding of this as a weight and kind of obligation of the program against places that may be legitimately more unsafe?
Appreciate it. First of all, the substitute was pretty much written by NDOT, which offers some level of comfort. It also requires that any project meet the qualifications for a project. So if District 37 comes along, they've never had a project.
Where is that?
Do you not know this city? Seems problematic. District 37 had never had a project, and they just come up with some ham-fisted thing that doesn't meet qualifications. That's not going to do it. There are those criteria right now in that scoring model, but those are necessarily skewed towards more denser areas, to the disadvantage of areas that aren't as dense. And it will mean more net funding. However, even if the worst 50 the worst 50 traffic situations are all located in District 25, still the stuff going on in my district and your district is severe to the people there, and not all of the money should go to District 25, just the majority of it.
Wish we get some money.
I get that. I think that's a great encapsulation of the problem, right? Like, that if you had, say, one specific concentration of very bad traffic scenarios in neighborhoods, and yet particularly every district council member knows that traffic calming is one of the most popular programs for neighborhoods just generally. And so I absolutely want to ensure that it's available to more neighborhoods across the county. I just want to make sure we're not, leaving high-risk scenarios, like if we knew that, like, a large number of children were getting struck by cars in District 25 because of something peculiar to that district. I wouldn't want to say then, well, we've got to do this, in all council districts, and so therefore we're not going to get to as many of those. It's just, I want to make sure we're getting the trade-offs right.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion?
Chair.
Yes.
I would just want to ask Hannah, I know in the past you had sent me something and you had sent to the council about the number of projects that have been funded or completed in all the districts. This may be, unless everybody's safe, this might be a good time maybe to resend that to the the body so that we have that fresh on our minds.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I have a follow-up to that, I think.
Councilman O'Connell.
So I guess, in the no net funding conversation too, and I think following on that, would the net result of the substitute be that you would have the same number of total projects? It would just be that over a period of time, you would ensure that one would, eventually you'd get to full coverage of the county with every district having some level of participation in the program? That's.
Yeah, same number of dollars anyway, whatever the council and mayor's office.
And then I didn't get a chance to see the details of the impact of the substitute, but is it expected to occur in every open enrollment period or over a certain period of total number of applications that you get to all 35 districts?
That would be up to not.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All right, we are on the substitute. Let me repeat the sponsor's intentions with respect to the substitute for those of you who came in late. Councilman Rosenberg would like to put the substitute on the bill now and then defer the bill as substituted. Is that correct, Councilman Rosenberg?
Yes, sir.
And with respect to the amendment, I guess that can wait as well, because I think the amendment needs to go on top of the bill. We don't have Councilman Sledge here to speak to it, so I don't know that that's significant. All right, so we're on the substitute. With no further discussion, all in favor of the substitute? Aye. Any opposed? All right, now we're on the bill as substituted. How long do you want?
Please, one meeting.
Okay.
And real quickly, I guess I'll second the motion for a one-meeting deferral. And then Councilmember Sledge has an amendment. I don't know if he had indicated to you that he wanted to do anything with that.
My understanding is that the amendment needs to be on whatever the final bill is, either the bill as substituted or not, but if it would put the amendment on ahead of time, it would get washed away with the substitute. And being the bill is going to be deferred, we can take up the amendment at the next meeting, so I don't think it's significant one way or the other.
Okay. Then,
Okay, so we're on the bill as substituted, and there's been a motion for one meeting deferral. Any discussion on the deferral? All right, all in favor of the deferral?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we moved the bill as substituted for one meeting. That's the entire agenda. Thank you so much. We are now adjourned.